Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to redo a video that I've done a while ago because Scott had sent me a note that he was trying to follow along on how to replace the eccentric spring on a Penn reel, and I talked too fast and my hands got in the way, and that's probably very true. I can't do much for talking too fast. That's a Northeast phenomenon, but I can get my hands out of the way. I'm going to try a new camera angle, and I'm going to try and stop along the way to show you what's happening. So this is an example of a Penn reel. This is a Penn 65, and it has a broken eccentric lever spring, and that spring nestles in a little nook here and comes under the eccentric blank here, and that's what puts the tension to move the piece up and down. Well, eventually it won't hold in place if that spring isn't there, so it won't lock in either in the free spool mode or lock out of free spool over time just due to the wear. Now you can see the spring is broken right here. That's just a remnant of it. That's why the reel came in for repair, and well, Scott got lucky because I'm going to have to repair this reel, and I thought I would just kind of move along with that. So let's take you through the process, and again, I welcome comments like that. I don't mind redoing if I have to redo, and I'm always looking to improve the quality of the videos on my channel, so there you go. I've changed the camera angle on this. It makes it a little more difficult for me, but hopefully you'll be able to see more. So the first thing you need to do is remove all the exterior pieces on this reel. That starts with the lockdown screw for the handle. Then we're going to remove the handle screw. I keep wanting to call it a nut because I use a wrench to take it off, but it is actually a screw. And then we'll remove the handle, and the easy way for me to remove the handle is simply to roll the star adjuster up to push it off rather than trying to rock it back and forth. When I take my pieces and parts off, I do like to put them into a parts tray so that I know where they are, and I do like to wear a protective glove on my hand to keep, well, you can see a lot of bad grease here that's all accumulated. I like to keep that off my hands as much as possible. All right, we're going to continue to take the star adjuster off, and boy, this reel's a mess, isn't it? It's got broken line in it, and I don't know if that's what's caused the issue with the piece or not, but we're going to have to get that out in terms of completing a repair. And this is one of the boat reels, the charter boat reels that I do. And the charter boat reel, generally the philosophy around that one is use it until it breaks. And you can see we've got a lot of UV damage. We've got an accumulation probably of salt and scales and everything else on there, and it just doesn't get hosed down after the use and the like. It just well, it's used until it breaks. I'm going to use a paper towel just to wipe some of the grease off the back here while we get started. And I've got a lot of videos in my library about how to rebuild these reels, so I'm not going to take you through the full service of this reel. Just search my library if you want to see how to work on those reels, but I do want to show a revised video here. So the idea is we've got to get this piece out. Well, in order to get that piece out, everything has got to come off this reel with the exception of the bearing. So let's start there. Let's take the bridge off first. The bridge has 4 screws in it, and the screws on the bridge are different. The 2 top ones have partial threads on them. The 2 bottom ones are fully threaded. You'll notice I'm cupping my hand. The reason I'm doing that is when I push that bridge through, there's an anti-reverse dog spring that you don't want to lose. So I've found that this is a good way to do that. We've talked about some others for Scott's benefit if he hasn't seen them. One of the one of the ways to do that is put this into a gallon plastic Ziploc bag and push through on it so that if the spring does shoot, you've got it contained. All right, the 4 screws are loose. I can tell that because the bridge post has come down, and now I'm just going to simply push that through. And when I feel the weight of that bridge on there, I'm going to roll it over and find that spring. This is the spring right here that we're talking about. It looks like a little caterpillar or an ant. I hope that's in frame. I'm just going to grab that with my pick if you do that, watch that you don't put tension on that, because it will shoot. That goes into my parts tray. And when you go to service the bridge now, this whole piece is going to be serviced. I'm going to take the anti-reverse dog, put that in there so I don't lose it. We're going to pull all of this off. We're going to clean it up. We're going to replace the old lubrication with new lubrication. You can see we've just got a ton of grease loaded up here. That's crazy, right? It's all dried grease that hasn't been serviced in quite some time. Again, it's a use them until they break kind of a scenario. Looks like the drag washers on this one are gone too, but that's for another day. All right, once we have that, we push down on the yoke assembly so that we can remove the jack. That exposes the eccentric that we're going to clean up, and we're going to replace the spring on. And here's the tag end of that spring that broke. You can see it's lodged underneath, and it rides in a little channel. There's an opening on this side of the reel, but there's not an opening on the other side. So this spring is going to ride in that channel to get the throw for the engaged or the not engaged. Lift up the yoke. There's two springs that go along with that. And now we can come over to the side so that we can release that eccentric. This is the new spring that we're going to put in. That spring is set up for a right-handed mount. They make springs that have that hook that come the other way for a left-handed mount. The procedures I'm going to share with you are the same, only mirror image. So if you're working on a Penn Jigmaster, for example, you'll have a left-handed mount, left side, where you'll see this little kind of double ridge section. The Jigmasters will have it on this side, but the actual process is the same, just mirror image. I'm going to take a screwdriver now to release the free spool lever. Put these into my tray so I don't lose them. So if you'd like to see these types of videos, I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. And if you subscribe to my channel, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see all of the videos that I post, and you'll be able to choose which ones you want to watch, which ones you can learn from, and which ones you want to say, well, I'll never see that reel, not interested, and pass on, right? All right, with that screw out, we can take the free spool lever off. And now we want to just push through the eccentric. Kind of comes out like that. And you can see the broken piece on the bottom here now. Hopefully we can. We'll try and do a good job of this, getting that centered, but that's the broken spring part there. I'm going to remove that, and you can see the hook that's going to be the replacement spring cavity. I'm going to push the 2, 3, 4 screws out for the side plate. Don't want to lose them as I'm doing the rest of this. And also, I'm just going to put a little bit of penetrating oil in here and do a preliminary cleaning. Again, I'm not doing this whole reel on this video, but I just want to get some of that grease out of the way so that I don't make a mess out of doing this, this eccentric and spring install. I particularly want to get the stuff up here because once I install, I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'm just using a series of paper towels and some little picks, cotton swab, and some other things to get that out. So that clearly was over lubed. I don't even know why lube is in there, because that's a spring, and that spring certainly doesn't need grease. So we'll just take a little bit of that out. You can just see it's just totally overcaked. That's all right. These reels are so strong they can put up with that kind of stuff. And there goes my arm again. So Scott, I'll apologize, but hopefully I wasn't doing anything critical at that point where my arm got in the picture. Okay, we're just going to kind of leave that go for now. As I mentioned, I'm going to come back. I'm going to do the whole reel. But for the purposes of this video, we really want to focus on how do you replace that spring. All right, this eccentric, well, it's a little dirty. It's got that same grease issue, so clean it up best you can. I think the paper towel is going to be fine. Now, in order to reinstall, we're going to reverse the process that we just had, and there's a little bit of a trick to this one, but not much. This spring is going to lay like this, and that hook facing up is going to be in the hole of the eccentric. Well, it's not easy to put it in just that way. There needs to be tension on the spring. So what I like to do first is I like to put a little dab of grease onto that tip. That kind of just acts as a little bit of a glue if you have an eccentric cam that just well, isn't holding very well. Maybe it's a little loose. Next up, go ahead and put that into the V. You can also put it in down here. Either one of those is fine. You can load underneath the V, or you can load it into the center of the V. Either one of them is going to work. Once you do that, center the eccentric and set it into the hole in the side plate, like that. Now, of course, if you turn that over, there's no way you can get this lever onto that piece because it's not protruding, and it's not protruding because of what we talked about before. There's a ridge in the side plate where the spring is going to run, but right now the spring is not in that cavity. So you need to turn this eccentric in a clockwise manner so that you can load the spring and push this through. Sometimes you can do it by hand. Sometimes you can't. So let me show you what I do when you can't. Grab a small pliers. In this case, I'm using a needle nose pliers. Very gently grab the stud, push down and turn in. And turn it until you get the balance point where this won't move. So this is halfway to loaded. It's going to be tough to move it, but it's not impossible, so be careful. So you can see now this spring is a little large. It's bumping up against the side plate case. So this is an example of where you want to put the spring in that lower piece to keep it free from there, because eventually that one will bend. So we're going to reverse this out. You don't need to run out and get a new spring. Just bring it down to the next cavity. Now you can see we're loaded on the bottom here instead of the top. I'll show you that again. You want to take the needle nose pliers, in this case, gently grasp it, and find the balance point. Now you'll see it's not interfering at all with the top of the side plate here. So this one will last a lot longer that way because we've mounted it in the bottom groove as opposed to the top groove. So over time, what's happened is the design on this side plate has changed. Some of these have the shorter throws and some of these have the longer, and that's the solution here. If you wanted to use that original V, you could trim off a little bit, but this is equally acceptable, and it will work just as well. All right, I like to keep my finger on the eccentric now while we go to replace the lever in that groove. Then I'm going to go into my parts tray. Going to grab the screw. We're going to tighten that down. It'll throw it all the way over, and now we have a replaced eccentric spring doing what it should do. So Scott, I hope that's clearer. I hope I kept my hands out of there for the most part. I'm going to go on to rebuild this reel because, well, we're going to give it a second chance. It needs to go fishing again. But I wanted to use this as an example of how to replace that eccentric spring that's broken and tell you a little bit about the function of that spring. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. If you would like to have a reel serviced, I do that, and you can just contact me by email on the business card that follows. I'll let you know the information regarding how to get a reel serviced. And finally, if you're a first responder or essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you're doing to keep us safe during this pandemic. Your efforts are heroic and truly appreciated. So everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.